Why bother being good? That is the title of a book written by a professor of the philosophy of religion, John Hare. He was one of my teachers in seminary, and he wrote a book called Why Bother Being Good? And in this book, he wrote about the great Franciscan medieval theologian and religious philosopher Duns Scotus, which means John from Scotland, Duns Scotus. He was a Franciscan, yay, so we get to talk about Franciscan spirituality today. And I am grossly, in case John Hare is listening, I am grossly oversimplifying what he said to keep this to 15 minutes. What Duns Scotus said is that he was exploring the question of why should we be good, why are we good, why do we want good, and also what pulls us away from doing good. And he says that we have a natural affection for justice and a natural affection for love. Justice and love, just as God is the God of justice and mercy, or the God of justice and love, that we have an innate desire, it is built into our nature as human beings, an innate desire for justice, for what is right and good and appropriate, and for love. And then he breaks down that love. That's love of God, love of self, and love of other, that we desire all of these things. So that would explain we want to be good because it is the right thing to do, because we just have a desire for that. And there are reasons to be good. We can have a sense of altruism, even if you're not religious, even if you don't have any love of God or knowledge of God in your life. You could simply want peace in the universe. You could want people to be happy and well-fed and so on. And so your altruism, your love of goodness for itself, could make you want to do good things. You also might want to do it out of love or protection for yourself. There are lots of ways in which we follow the rules of a social order in order to bring about good for ourselves and others. So you don't kick over the neighbor's garbage cans because you don't want them to kick over your garbage cans. You follow the speeding laws because you don't want to cause harm or jail, and you also hope that others around you would do the same. We do a lot of things. You don't steal people's things because you want to preserve the social order, and nothing wrong with that. I feel my mic going in and out. Is it going in and out? It is. I don't know. All right. Good enough? Okay, I can go up there if you need me to. We can also do it for love of self. We do good things because it makes us feel good. A friend asks you to do a favor. Can you help me move some furniture on Monday? And you say, yeah, and you do it, and they say thank you, and you feel good. Or a charity asks you for money, and you give them some money, and you feel good for giving money to Episcopal Community Services or Jewish Family Services. It makes you feel good. And there's nothing wrong with doing something because it makes us feel good. Another reason, if you're a religious person, that you love God, and out of a sense of gratitude, just because of that love, you do good things. Or, and this might be common for some of you, you do what ethicists call following the divine command. So one of the reasons that we are ethical is that we are commanded by God to be so, to be good, and to do good things. Now, the reason I bring this up is that Jesus' reading today, what he teaches us today in the Gospel of Luke, is challenging because he's talking about doing loving, forgiving, good things when your sense of justice and love of self tells you to get back at the person who has done harm to you. Somebody has done something wrong, either to somebody you care about or to you, and justice demands that they suffer. Justice demands that they experience the consequence of their actions. And yet, the divine command tells you, love your enemies, turn the other cheek, yada, 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 etc., etc. He even says that doing good to people we love, forgiving people who forgive us all the time, that you get no credit for that. He uses a financial term. You get no credit for that. That's not really a spiritual practice of love and forgiveness. No, he is focusing on what I call when the moral rubber hits the road. When you have conflicting desires in you, when something tells you that person needs to get it. And I'm willing to do it. I'm not going to forgive that person. I'm not going to do that good thing for that person. They don't deserve it. So, speaking of the rubber meeting the road, I'm going to have 3 vignettes of checking with the live stream back there. Stephen, are we good in terms of what's happening? Because I'm concerned. I'm hearing it going in and out. Yeah, audio's okay, but in-house. Yeah. Can I switch to here? All right, here we go. No more, it's too annoying. Here's one of the times a rubber literally hit the road for me. I was driving in Northern California on I-5 with my daughter, who was probably a teenager at the time. We were going on vacation, and I honestly don't know what happened. The speed limit up there in the middle of nowhere is 70 miles an hour, and I was probably driving that speed. And all I know is that a car suddenly sped ahead of me, pulled in front of me, and slammed on the brakes. So naturally, I slammed on the brakes. And I remember thinking, did I do something wrong? Did I make a lane change? It was soon after I'd made a lane change. Did I make a lane change that forced that person to slam on his brakes? And he's mad at me, except I had checked the rearview mirror and I had looked over my shoulder and there was nobody there, unless, say, he was driving 100 miles an hour. So I got worried. I changed lanes. I moved over a lane. He pulled in front of me in that lane, slammed on his brakes again. I moved over 2 lanes to the left. He did the same thing. And I sped up to try to get away, and he did the same thing again. Out of self-preservation, a freeway exit was coming up. I slowed way down. I went over to the right lane, and I got off the freeway. We were out in the middle of, think Ukiah, in the middle of nowhere. Sorry for you Ukiahans, I didn't mean to say that. And there I was in like a little, there were gas stations, and I turned some side streets to get away from this person. And I actually didn't feel anger at him. I was afraid, concerned, and I just wanted to end what was happening. And I did. He obviously drove on, and I waited a few minutes, and then I got back on the freeway. End of thing. I never thought of it again. I've always wondered every once in a while, what was that? But until I was preparing this sermon, I'd forgot the fact that I just let it go. Now, as you know, if you've ever seen episodes of road rage, that sometimes when somebody does a road ragey thing, the person they do it to says, well, I'm going to do that to you too. So I'm going to pull in front of you and slam on the brakes. Let's see how you like almost crashing on the freeway. That would have been the vengeful thing to do. But I let him go. I forgave him purely to save my own skin and the life of my daughter, simply to be safe. Nothing wrong with that. Definitely my enemy. He clearly wanted me harm. Now, another reason why you might go against your desire to have vengeance, to hurt somebody, is when you are in an environment where you are modeling for somebody else what the right thing to do is. The right thing, that is the thing that Jesus teaches us to do, to love our enemies, to forgive those who harm us. So again, a story involving my daughter. She was 13. We'd gone to a family event, and it's too complicated a story, but for reasons unknown to me, a relative simply started screaming at me and told me to leave her house immediately and never come back. It was a shocking event. Everybody else was stunned that she did this. I was stunned. I was hurt and angry. She had clearly upset my daughter. We got in our car, we drove home, and as I was driving, over this bridge and that bridge, I was just going, yep, I don't need to talk to that person anymore. Went home, didn't really talk about it. The next day, my daughter and I went off and ran errands, and as we came home, we were putting away the groceries, and I don't know if you remember, voicemail machines. You used to have a button you pressed to hear your messages. So I pressed the button to hear the message, and there was my relative saying, Janine, I am so, so sorry. That was really a mistake, and I wish I had not said that, and I hope you will forgive me and come back to our house this weekend. And the voice in my head said, no. Sorry, this is not the first time this happened, but it is the last, and no, I don't need to be in your home anymore. But right then, my little 13-year-old said, you are not going to forgive her. Because, of course, as I looked at my daughter's contorted face, I went, well, now I have to. Because I don't want to teach my daughter that you don't forgive. Happy to say that I did reconcile with that relative. That relative apologized again. We have a happy, lovey relationship. We see each other all the time. Did not end that relationship. In that case, I did it out of the desire not to look like a bad Christian in front of my daughter. That was the only motivation. Yes, later now I can see I loved my relative. I wanted to be back with my relative. But at the moment, the only thing that made me do it was not wishing to look like a lousy Christian in front of my child. That was the only reason. This was the most challenging one so far, although I do have new challenges in my life. But one time when I was at a job at a famous Silicon Valley company, I had the dream job. I managed a group of people who worked on a project. And they were fun people, and I liked them. I loved my boss. There was another team that did similar work, web production. Loved those people, too. We all had lunch together. We went to happy hours. The hours were reasonable. I didn't work really long hours. Great job. And stock options. Then this woman started, and she was heralded to be, the great thing who would just bring us to a new level of work. And she had my same title. She was managing the other team, so we were parallel, fellow managers. And I don't even know to this day what happened. But all I know is that she managed to convince higher-ups that we didn't need some of the employees in the other group. And even though those people were doing wonderful work, got outstanding performance reviews, she just said they need to go, and within months, each of them had been given slips. Basically, they couldn't fire them because their records were outstanding, but they basically said, you need to find another job. I was livid. And to make matters worse, I could tell from the politicking going on and the whispered conversations that she was trying to make the same happen to me, despite the fact that my team had delivered a major project on time and her team had delivered nothing. Can you see my justice, my ire? The good employees should stay, bad employees should go. So, fortunately, a recruiter called me. I was recruited to Netflix, a better title, more money. You'd think happy ending, right? But no, because what happened was, as I started my new job, for the next 6 months, it was eating away at me. That perfect little work environment I'd had with my great friends and coworkers had been blown up by that person, and I wanted her to have consequences. I couldn't sleep at night, and every night I would pray this prayer: I'm sorry, God, for being such an unforgiving person. Please help me to forgive her and to go to sleep and just let this go. But I didn't let it go. I wanted to. I tried to. So finally, I spoke to a priest. Helpful, by the way, if you're having spiritual problems. Spoke to this priest, and I said, I feel horrible. I'm a lousy Christian. I can't forgive this horrible, mean person. And he said, well, she's taken away your peace, and you've let her. And he said, pray for her. I thought, I don't think this man understands. So I said, well, he said, because, Janine, that's the only way, pray for her. That's the only way you're going to get your peace back. So I thought, well, okay, fine, I will try. So that night, bedtime, I prayed, and I honestly couldn't think of a single nice thing to say. So I said, I pray for this person. I lift her up to you. That's all I've got. And I did that for 2 more nights. And after that, I never thought of her again, and I slept well. It was gone. Because I stopped thinking about the bitterness in my heart and my inability to forgive her, and I prayed for her out of sort of compelled love for her. I can't say I was feeling love when I was first asked, but as I prayed for her, I felt what I would call spiritual indifference. At least I felt neutral towards her, and that is when the universe shifted. Now, in those last 2 examples, I would say that I forgave grudgingly. I didn't really think, oh, I love God, and I love myself, and I love other people, and I just want everything to be fine, so I forgive. No, I did it because I felt compelled by the divine command to do it. And I wanted to be better myself. I wanted to be in a better place. But was that really what I was doing? Was I just following, Commander God who says, love your enemies, forgive those who harm you? Because that's not very motivating in the long run. If you're just doing something to follow orders, that doesn't actually make you feel like doing it more and more. Well, I'll tell you what Duns Scotus would say. He would say, no, that following the divine command is not a grudging way. What he would say is that my inborn affection for God and myself and others led me to do it, and that my inborn sense of justice, which seemed to compel me to want that coworker to suffer, was also compelling me to feel compassion towards her, to recognize that she needed to be let off in some way for whatever bitterness and darkness was in her life that caused her to do that. He would say that it was those things that led me to forgive. He says that we do it out of love for God and out of love for others and out of love for ourselves. Yes, it benefits us, and that's not a problem. But even when it seems not to benefit us, to forgive and to love those who have harmed us, in the end, it's what our truest and deepest self wants: to forgive. Amen.